Hello, my name is Rui Pereira. I'm a youth worker from Portugal, and I've been involved in Youth in Action and Erasmus Plus projects for more than 10 years. First as a participant, and more recently as a project coordinator and also multimedia communication specialist. In these tutorials, I'm going to try to show you some of the tools that we've been using to communicate our projects and how we are using them to try to engage more young people in our activities. In this video, we'll focus on learning the basics of designing content for the different social media platforms we use and how to organize the workflow using Photoshop. Also later, as a bonus, we will go through some alternative tools to Photoshop that you can use freely online or offline, etc. For the sake of this tutorial, we are going to be replicating banners for an event we did a few months ago for the project, where we had a workshop with Costin Dadu, and we'll be replicating banners for an event like this. So with these elements. Additionally, because we had a banner like full HD banner and an Instagram banner, we're also going to do a story, Instagram story banner. So let's get started by opening Photoshop. So let's start by creating a new file. Important things are to set up the name. So to make yourself organized, we're going to call it Get Involved Banner. And I already have some saved presets here that I do for my work. However, you can, it's easy to create, so you just come here, change the dimensions. And a good point to start is to use this full HD one, so 1920 by 1080. And this is 16:9 ratio, the normal ratio you see on YouTube videos, on most of the TV screens nowadays. Because we want to create for more than one social media platform, we will also check these artboards, which I will try to explain later. Okay, create. So it has created a file, you see, with this rectangular shape, 16:9. We're just going to rename this full HD. So that's our first artboard. Yeah, now it's time to start getting creative. And as you can see, Photoshop has a huge amount of tools that you can use. Effects and filters, and there's so many things you can do, but I'm gonna stick to basic stuff for the sake of our time. So I'll give you a basic notion of how this program works. First concept that is important to understand is the concept of layers. As you can see here, we already have one layer created, which is layer 1. But just to explain the concept of layers, I'm gonna create another layer, and the concept is actually quite simple. So basically, layers represent your order of view in terms of depth. So let's say the bottom layers are in the back of your picture and the front layers are in the front. And to exemplify this, I'm just going to create a small, like a simple text here. I'm going to call it front. Also going to change the color to black. Change the color to black. And on this one, I'm going to create one in red. Okay, back. And as you can see, if I drag and I align these two, back is in the back, front is in the front. And if I change this layer order, it changes. So in this case, the red one is now in front, and so on. So simple way to exemplify this. Let's delete this and let's start with our design. Basically, we will be replicating these banners we did before, and to make it easier, I have all the materials already done that compose the picture. And so let's start with importing our background. We'll just drag this here. As you see, it's not a perfect fit, but since it's a texture that we are going to apply to the background, we can just stretch it. Not stretch it, but like resize it to fit everything. An alternative would be to having the layer created. If you don't want to use a texture, you could just have a layer created to be the background. Let's call it background. And you would come here to edit and click fill, and you could choose a color. And well, it's already presetted on that, but let's say we wanted something else, so you could just change this around, choose the color you want. I'm gonna go with that, that's okay. And what this would do is basically fill up your background, and you could start working on that. In this case, we are going to use the texture, so I'm going to delete this, but you get the idea. So next, let's import some other materials. We have this Costin's face, like a frame for his face. We're gonna set it up more or less like this. We'll adjust everything later. Something like that. Click OK, and we go now to get the banner for from our project. In this case, yes, banner here. So following more or less the design we were looking for. Basically, you can readjust the sizes by dragging these corners. Same here, although this is more or less okay. No need to change that. And you have the Ifjúsági Nomád Klub's logo, so of our NGO. We are going to size it smaller to be here, more or less. It's not very important where you set it in the first place, because then you can basically, okay, I need to accept it first, because then you can basically change the way you change the layout and of all the elements and so on. Another important element is to include, of course, the Erasmus Plus logo, because it is an Erasmus Plus funded project, so we will just resize it to fit more or less here in our and to center it with that. Something like that looks good. And also we will put our event data, which normally I create a small text file that I open up and I can check. So basically we have the title of our workshop. You'll just copy this, go into here, open type tool, this T shaped T icon, I guess. You click and we will just do Control V to paste it. We will select all of this and make it white, because we don't want some red letters on our banner. We already have, basically this is already in the font we used. I'm gonna resize this. There's two ways of resizing this. You can either use this type layer properties and change the size here. Okay, change the size here. Basically changing the font size directly, or you can just like any other item, you can just drag the corners and so on. Important in this case, if you want to change the font, because right now it's already in the right font, but let's say it was in Arial or something, and you could just you just come here to this menu and you basically have all the fonts that are installed in your computer, and so on. And you just choose the one. You can scroll and you can see how it will look, etc. It's very well done. But I'm gonna put it back in Dosis and Bold, which is the font we used for this project. Here the line height is they're a bit too far apart, so I'm just gonna move that to make the lower line a bit closer, and that's more or less okay. And I'm gonna copy the rest of the text, basically with the online workshop and the date when it happened. Do okay. Type tool, we click here, we copy, it made an enter, I guess. Yeah, so that's it. And now we will just align this and resize it. If you click Alt, it will resize on both sides according to that target that is there in the center of the image, of the element in this case, not an image, but and the important thing is like all these elements, like this face of Costin or this banner, they are PNGs with and all the logos, they're basically PNGs with PNG files with transparent backgrounds. And so all these elements are transparent, and basically if they go above the background, as I explained the concept of layers, they will be over, you will see the background in the back. Imagine if I was to pull this under or to pull the background above Costin, like Costin would disappear. So it's a very simple way to understand the layers and why is it important. So now we'll basically align all of this. We'll more or less decide on the distances between things. We can go back to see the example just to make it exactly as it was, or more similar, but it's already looking pretty similar. Okay, it's a bit smaller and Costin is bigger. That's what I get from this. So we go back. So Costin was a bit bigger on that, like probably occupying half of the screen, and all of these things were a bit smaller. So okay, so let's say I can bring it up a bit more, so focus on the logo, not on the clouds, and all of this also more centered, and also a bit smaller, I guess. Yes. Important here is you can choose these two text items, these type items, and you can align them, and basically when you select them, these tools up here will show up, and this is basically alignment tools. So in this case, like I can align them to the left, so they're both aligned to the left, or to the right. I could align both of them to the vertically, but that would make no sense in this case, so we'll just undo that. In this case I want to align them on the horizontal center, so they are perfectly aligned and centered with each other. we will later do that also with the logos. I will just need to go and resize them a bit. To make it easier to align these elements together in this thing, you can create a group. So you click this folder here to create a group, and we will just call it logo bar. Logo bar. Since we have also locked more or less the title part, we will also create a group called titles. So what this will do is that we now can basically control, if we change this up to group here, we can basically control the two of them together, and we can select this and this, like logo bar and titles, for example, and we can align their centers. And we should also do that with the banner and align their centers, which are more or less aligned already because the banner is not balanced. In this case, because of these clouds, the actual logo is not exactly in the center of this element, so this cross should be more like here, I guess. So we will just do this more or less by hand. Okay, if my computer if my computer cooperates. Let's say something like that looks okay. Now the logo bar, and as you see, you have a banner done. So in the beginning we checked artboards because our plan was to do a banner not only for like Facebook or YouTube or a YouTube thumbnail or something. So we will also create, we'll click here and where it says Full HD to highlight the Artboard tool, and we'll click plus here to the right. This will create a new artboard. Now for Instagram, we want it to be a square, or I mean we could use the other one, but squares work better on Instagram. So to this we will just change the width from 1920 to 180, and we do this here in this properties panel. So 180, we just click somewhere to make it, and now we have a square. So now that you have all the design and all the materials are already here, we don't need to import them again. We can just like, why can't I? Okay, let's just click somewhere to go out of the artboards, and we can zoom out a bit. By holding Alt and scrolling back, you can zoom out and see the whole thing. So as I was saying, you don't need to actually import all of this again. So what we're going to do is just select different elements from this Full HD, and you can do that by going here, changing this to layer, and let's start with the background. So we will just copy that with Control C and click on Artboard 1, which we are going to call Instagram Square. Okay, Instagram Square, and we will basically Control V here. This will put it's not aligned, so you just center it more or less, and put it in. Just bring the sides to it. It will just fit like that. So we have the background for that as well, and now we'll do the same with all the other items. So we will copy costin, Control C, Control V. Now we have a costin in our Instagram square. I'm just going to resize this already, so checking the example, just to basically a big costin in the top and then all the elements below. Okay, so let's keep it like that for now and import all the others. So Control C, Control V, we copied the banner. In the example we didn't use the banner with all the clouds, but for this tutorial we will just stick with this. Now the titles, copy, Control C, Control V. Wait, it's important to choose the artboard, the different artboard. Control V then, and put it back to group so you can just move everything together. We're gonna sort of align it here to make it a bit smaller. It's okay for now, and just just copy the logo bar also. So copy, Instagram square, paste, bring it down, and now let's zoom back in. If you hold space, you can use this hand tool and move things around, so it makes it easier to navigate. Yeah, so now we'll just align these items more or less. So basically we want costin to be centered, and if we hold only costin's face, like this element, we can just align horizontal center, and it will align to the center, although apparently it was already. So if it was here and I was to click this, it would just go to the center of the image. That seems okay. We will just resize this a bit more, a bit smaller, not too much, but to give some more space for the title. Now we want this to be centered with the logo, although the logo is not centered, so we will also kind of eyeball this, something like that. And this logo bar basically can be a bit smaller. You can just hold and centered. I'm not sure it's centered, so we will center it with the picture. It is centered, and just resize it a bit. Okay, there we go, and you have your Instagram square done. Now we had one more we want to do it, and this will be a new one. We will do Instagram story, and Instagram stories are basically 190 by 180 but in a vertical. So we will just change the height to back to 920, and you will have a square. We will have a rectangular, like a story, so that all of us know from the and I wanted to, I basically want to center it a bit, just to make it easier to see. And we will repeat the same process. Basically, we will first rename it Instagram story. And this is just to keep yourself organized, and repeat the process. So we will go with the background, copy, bring back to Instagram story, and Control V. This already works. Basically like this would work already, so you don't need to do anything. Yes, that's it. And now to copy all the items, and in this case maybe it's easier to copy from the Instagram square because they are already smaller. So let's just click costing, Control C, and click back on the artboard, Control V, and there you have costing. I'm gonna go with costing's face is gonna be more in the middle. This logo, I'm gonna copy it, and I'm thinking to put it more, wait, not you, the logo, the banner. Okay, let's just, if you ever need to see things or not see things, you have these little eyes here. You can just click them and so on, and you can shut down that layer for a bit. So yeah, I'm gonna put the logo more on the top. I'm gonna make this larger, like full, so you can take full advantage of all the space, and it's gonna be readable, because if it's too small you won't be able to read it. Costing, I want him to be centered. The banner also, I want it to be centered to the screen. So next we will copy the titles, which we will put under costing. And in this thing we're just going to move costing to the back, so he's not on the way all the time. Put it more or less same distance, and let's say we want to keep this margin here between costing and the titles. Instead of taking the corners or the sides, we'll basically choose the bottom, this bottom point, and we will just drag it down, which will basically make it bigger. I'm gonna zoom in on this also so we can see better. Yeah, so we zoom in, we basically resize it by dragging this down, and I'm not gonna do too much because we want to have space for the logos. So we will copy the logos, last element, and we will put it down here. Pretty simple way of replicating for different social media, for different platforms of social media. Yeah, we can make costing a bit bigger. Wait, not that way. We can hold the Alt key and just make it a bit bigger, but keeping in mind that you should leave some space between things. So what we can do is basically pull this logo a bit up, and let's say pull this title. If you hold shift when you are moving things, it will not move, it will only move in one axis. So in this case it's only moving up and down, or if my let's put it back, if my plan was to move it to the right, this way it would move only this. No matter where your mouse goes, it would not get away. So let's just recenter that now. And yeah, that looks okay to me. I would probably, to make it less distracting, I would basically get the logo without the clouds for this, import that, and make it a bit bigger. But for the sake of this tutorial, this is okay. Yeah, everything looks kind of balanced. It's easy to read. I'll probably do the same with the clouds here, because the logo is a bit smaller than it should be. It could be bigger, but with the clouds it makes. The you see, like, the clouds would invade the space of other elements, so let's not do that. Yeah, and there you go. You have the three platforms ready. Now, the importance of using artboards comes mostly at this point, when we are going to export this. So basically we will just go here to File, you have Export, and you have Export As. The fact that you did 3 artboards means that you can export all of them at the same time. Because this is for online and you don't need super huge files with a lot of qualities and so on, we'll just put the simple JPEG. And I think if we select all of them and click JPEG, yeah, they will all change. So this makes smaller files. Also, because it's not, I mean, it's okay. This, you can put 100 quality, but if you have like a website or you want to make it less heavy, you can adjust the quality here. Don't go too far because the quality will be really bad. But you can go up to, I don't know, 80. You see the files become considerably smaller. They're not all selected. Wait, let's put 80. They become really small and they will be more or less okay. But for this, let's keep it at 100. These are the widths and so on. So, but you could try to make it smaller if you want to, but you don't need for this. Okay. And once you click Export All, it will open the folder where you want to save it. I already created this folder called Exports, which is basically where I will put all of them. So I select this folder, Exports, and as you can see, it was very fast. But all the images are created here. Full HD, the Instagram square, and the Instagram story. And that's it. We've created banners for all social media. So as I promised in the beginning of the video, we are going to show you some options that you can use. We know that Photoshop is not freeware. You need to pay a license to use it. So we're going to show you some alternative tools that you can use that are freeware and online based and sometimes simpler than Photoshop. So I'm going to show you two options. One of them is Canva. So basically in Canva you have to log in. You have to log in. But basically in Canva you can do, so you create a design and you can choose from a series of stuff. So let's say an Instagram post, and they have a lot of options for you, but they also allow you to upload your photos. So you upload some photos, you can write text. So it's very intuitive, and let's say not that. Let's say we want to say workshop with Kostin Dadu. For example, we can probably center this. Wow, we can center. We can add a background of some kind. Let's say, yeah, you have a lot of textures here. That seems like something decent. You can upload your photos. So yeah, basically we could upload all those materials we had, and we could just do something here. Change the color of this to white and just play with it, basically. So that's one option, canva.com. You need to create an account. That's a must. So you need to sign up. But most of it's free. I guess with Pro you will get some other benefits. And the other one I have to suggest is photopea.com, which as you see is very similar to Photoshop, but it's completely free, and and online, and it actually opens. You can actually open Photoshop files. So I could actually try to open the file we created in this video before. It's here. Let's see if it opens. Yeah. Wow. So you can it's basically a free Photoshop inside the browser. Yeah. So as you see, if you don't have the license for Photoshop, you can alternatively use these two tools. There are more, like you can search, but I believe that with these two you're covered to do all kinds of designs to promote your projects and so on.